Expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rev. And boy, what a Friday we got. We got a ton of stuff to talk about.
I'm telling you.
On all levels.
Everything broke yesterday.
That was it.
Couldn't have planned it in any better way. I'm telling you now.
We got so much stuff to talk about. We got to get going.
Yeah, we do. First off, before we get into the city news, let's get into some old Jazelgate news.
Oh, Jazelgate.
Gen Andrade must be another one with a horseshoe up her backside, because now they've put her trial off until March 7th. The judge said that one of the witnesses came down with COVID, and so for COVID protocols, they have to put the case off. And the dates that they had to come up with, there were conflicts between the prosecution and the defense. So March 7th they came up with doesn't have any conflicts, so March 7th is the date. So now we have to wait until March 7th to find out if Gen Andrade is going to go to trial or not, or is something else in the background working on. Defense attorneys like continuances because they benefit the defendant. And we don't know what's going to happen because remember, Jazel's got a report in January.
Yep.
So maybe they wanted to put it off to see if, maybe Jazel wanted to put it off to see what would happen with Jen in her trial. Now that's put off. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on there.
Maybe that will mean he is going to go to jail in January finally. But the other thing I heard too, and I don't know if you did, but I heard in one of the reports that they also said that they would have difficulty with jury seating.
Yes, they are.
Because the Jazel trial got so much publicity that they're finding it very difficult to get jurors who haven't heard something about the case.
And I think they're going to have a hard time finding a juror.
Yeah, I do too. Because
that hasn't heard about this case, because it's been on every news station, unbelievably. You're looking at the fact that it's been well recognized. As a matter of fact, the judge made a comment that he is not happy about all the press coverage that this has received. It's more than he would have allowed. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that they've opened up the courtroom via Zoom.
Yep.
And because they did that, more news organizations were able to, sneak in, watch it online, and find out what was going on. Plus, a lot of people who we all have a voyeuristic thing about ourselves, so we all wanted to watch the trial because we all had to know what was going on, and we found out lots of things that were going on.
And not only that, you got to realize that when it comes to a public corruption case where somebody who is a public official, especially a mayor or something like that, a governor, or whether it's Cuomo, people are highly interested in those particular things because it reaffirms most of the suspicions that government is totally useless anyway. And now we've got introduced, I can segue into one thing I was going to talk about our new justice that just got appointed by a 51-50 with Carmela breaking.
The new assistant.
Yeah, we have a racist that's appointed. People are outraged. Democrats voted right along the line. But I watched a video of this woman going ballistic. She had police lights in her car, screaming at some woman, calling her a racist and everything else. And the woman actually has a black boyfriend who was sitting in the car. Mm-hmm. But they had 4 or 5 videos of her going ballistic and talking about racism and shooting people in the streets. And she's loose. She's unhinged. I better not go to federal court on a charge now. But
why? She doesn't prosecute anybody.
Yeah, she doesn't prosecute anybody that had her record. And you know the irony, I just got to get this in. I want to leave it alone because this just goes to show this administration is they're out of control. I mean, they try to appoint someone who went to University of Moscow, and is against media to deal with media. They put this woman in 50. And you know the irony is she's talking like she was a victim her whole life because of her color. Well, I found something that was, I don't know if you know this, but I just learned it this morning in watching some of the coverages. She's half Irish. Her father was Irish. She's not even all black. She's half Irish.
So is she black Irish?
Well, I won't go there. But the fact is that, but she's biracial, and she acts like a victim. She came from a well-to-do family.
Again.
She played lacrosse in a private school.
Again.
Like all ghetto people do. They all play lacrosse.
Of course.
And, you know, this is the AOC stigma. You know, they play the victim. They pretend that they feel their pain and they grew up in some kind of, you know, racially charged area where they were victimized by their, you know, their name or their color or their perceived color. And ironically, most of the people who do this are full of crap.
Yeah.
You know, they come from rich, i.e. Kamala Harris.
Right.
How many people realize that she grew up in Canada? She didn't even grow up in the United States. Rich family, private schools, AOC, rich family, private schools. Rollins, rich family, private schools. Half white, you know, I mean, but look, that's the problem. The society and the media love to play on this. They're trying to disrupt this country and divide us and conquer us because it should be not based on color, content of character, and the fact that we all have one thing in common. We're Americans, and this is the greatest country in the world. So I had to just get that one in.
You know, you're saying things that are so obvious. What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Straighten out the United States public.
No, because anybody who says that today is considered a white supremacist because you say America's a great country. And I feel that because yesterday we had our Christmas party for the retirees, and at that retirement party we had one of our members, our oldest member I believe now, 97 years old, who served with Patton in World War II. So we got up and everybody gave him a nice ovation. And he's America. I see that 97-year-old man still getting around and still more lucid than Brandon. And it reminds me what a great country this is. And there's a man that kept this country great by fighting for us in World War II. And so, you know, I don't worry about getting canceled. You can cancel me all you want. I canceled you clowns a long time ago.
Exactly.
So, all right.
And before somebody takes my comment out of context, okay? I was not making a racial comment. I was not doing any of that. And if anyone was offended, I'm already sorry. I should have never said it.
All right. Now that we've handled all the
controversial stuff,
well, let's get some more city controversial stuff.
Well, your friend Mary Sahadi, has decided that her contract's not going to be renewed, and so she tendered resignation to the mayor with a note giving her the next 30 days off. Her contract expires on January 5th, so how convenient. Somebody was on the radio this morning and turned around and said, well, now she's going to Florida, we won't see her anymore.
I don't know. Is that true? It could. I mean, remember, she also had jobs in Swansea. She had jobs. She's got jobs all over the place.
But she's also chairman of the Housing Authority.
Of the Housing Authority. And somebody said that her 30 days, she went out on sick leave.
Yep, she went out on sick leave.
Well, I hope she, you know, as much as I really don't care for her performance, and I don't like her. You know, I'll be perfectly frank. I don't like her positions on a lot of things because to me, she's totally insensitive to the plight of retirees and working people because she calls us liabilities. But I don't wish anybody ill. I hope if she has a problem that you know, she gets better. I don't want to see anybody sick. So as much as I'm kind of, you know, kind of happy, but. We can always speculate on why she's leaving. You know, maybe the contract's not going to be renewed. Maybe she's getting out of Dodge because She realizes what a mess this city's going to be in financially in the not too distant future. And when they start looking at the books and what they did with the money, there's going to be a lot of accountability there. That's going to be, because look, we see no police chief, new fire chief, no CFO, no personnel, no city administrator, although the CFO position is relatively new. We should have never got it. I don't know why we need a CFO when you got a, if you have a city administrator, an auditor, a treasurer. That's another job they added a tier to give people. And we got these giant pay raises, like a $36,000 pay raise for the water department head. Yeah. And $36,000. I just want to bring this point up to the city council and to the people of Fall River, the taxpayers. We know there's all kinds of deficits in this budget. We're looking at a debt override. We're looking at the diamond debt override. We're looking at fee increases, water increases. And we give a guy that's been working there 3 years or so a $36,000 raise. That's $12,000 a year. But let me tell you, let me remind you of something. And remind the mayor, who I guess in his last term is going to give everybody he knows a job and everybody a giant pay raise, even though we can't afford it. The average household income, according to the United States Census Bureau for Fall River, is below $36,000. It's 35 and change, I believe. But imagine someone who's making over $100,000 in a city where the per capita income is below $25,000 and the household income is below $35,000, getting a $36,000 pay raise. And he's got a consultant. I mean, I don't know, call me crazy. But if this guy's so good, he gets a $36,000 pay raise, which is more than 33%, I'd say. A 33% pay raise. You think he could fire a consultant? Does he? If you're going to get that much money, do you really need the old head of the water department to be your consultant? Again, your money being urinated down the sewer with a total disregard for people who are living on. And you know the irony of this, and what really pisses me off? There are people who've worked for this city for 20 years that are clerks and secretaries that are making barely $35,000. And this guy gets it for a pay raise. And I don't want to hear what they make in Newton and what they do. No, this is Fall River. Do we have the ability to pay, as they say at the JLMC? The answer to that is no. And all this guy's doing, before he's even sworn in, he's a lame duck, is he's going to dig a hole that we won't get out of. So we can change the name of Fall River when we go into receivership. Not only will we have a receiver come down, we can change the name to Cooganville, because he's going to be the guy that's going to wreck this city. Him getting all his rich friends richer.
You know, we talk about receivership a lot over the years. We've talked about it for the past 9 years. And I think for the first time we're looking at it, I mean, in the past we've said this, that the first time we're looking at it, it looks like it's going to hit us. But this time it really does look like it's going to hit us. It really does. Because I'll tell you, we don't have the money anywhere for anything.
Well, you know, CJ, well, let's look at the picture objectively. If we're not in receivership, we will be shortly, because let's face it, let's look at the population. Let's look at the demographic. Look at what the average people in Fall River make. And there are more renters than homeowners. What's going to happen, regardless, if we don't go into receivership immediately, is there's going to be a lot of homelessness, a lot of evictions, a lot of people, because they're going to raise your property taxes. They're going to give you a debt override. They're going to give you another debt override for basically for Diamond. We're going to have all these bills, and landlords are going to have to jack up their rents. People won't be able to afford them because, I hate to say it, but people living in 3-deckers all over the city of Fall River are not getting $36,000 pay raises.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, they're lucky if they make $36,000 a year. So what's going to happen to the average citizen, the majority of people in Fall River? And I'm not talking about that snapshot of Richie Rich and his friends at the parade. And we went over that photograph.
Yep.
With Rich, Richer, Richest, and nauseatingly rich. Those are the four in that picture. But they don't care. They don't care like Pelosi doesn't care. She doesn't care if there's 1 million people laying in the streets of San Francisco, defecating and urinating all over the streets and living in tents on the sidewalk and mugging people and shooting up drugs. She's up at her Napa Valley estate eating her $15 a pint ice cream and having $30,000 a plate dinners, and then maybe inviting Newsom over from the French Laundry to have lunch. They don't care. They don't care. This is a tale of two cities. The city of the rich, the people who have so many jobs and so many paychecks that you can't even keep track of them, and their spouses who have a bunch of jobs too, and are making big money and take pictures at parades, and the people who are scratching their butts trying to pay their bills. And the problem is there are more people scratching their butts trying to pay their bills in this city than people who don't worry about any kind of increase because they make beaucoup money.
You know, when we look at this administration, a lot of things were spoken about during the election. And the voters didn't want to hear it. They wanted to re-elect Paul because we got to give him a chance. He didn't have a chance. We had COVID. He didn't have a chance to be a mayor. He didn't have a chance to be a mayor. He had every chance to be the mayor. And he chose not to be the mayor. He chose to be the COVID mayor. He chose to be the handing out the hand sanitizer and the face masks. But this is what's happened now to his administration. Not even being sworn in yet, he's lost his chief financial officer. He has no city administrator. He has no permanent school superintendent. He has no permanent police chief. And the fire chief is retiring.
Is retiring, yes.
So we will have no fire chief shortly. Now, here's the kicker. All of these positions, he's already got somebody picked out for. We know that he does, because that's notoriously regular for a second-term mayor to make some significant changes in his administration. But in this case, it's not him that's making the changes. It's the administration is. His supporters are falling out from under him. He's losing his base. He's losing his base. And, you know, I can see Paul now. What is going on? Why I'm a nice guy. Don't they want to go to heaven? I mean, this is Paul, you know? But with him losing all of this, it speaks volumes. Now, I haven't been able to confirm with the person that the offer was made to, but I'm not going to get into it. But allegedly, an offer was made to an individual in the city to take on the position of city administrator. And that person turned around and said, not for the money you are offering me. And the mayor wanted to make it the city administrator and the CFO. And he would try to bring the salary up again, another $40,000 or $50,000. You know, it's not his money, so what does it matter? And again, the mayor was told no.
Yeah. And, you know, I heard the same rumor. Reality is, listen, the individual who that was offered to, or who is allegedly offered it, knows full well that we don't need a CFO. Because that individual was involved in the city, doing the job of the city and knowing this city when we had no CFO. See, this is the great thing about government. They create all these positions for people. You know, I've always said it takes 6 people to screw in a light bulb on a local level, it takes 12 people to screw in a light bulb on a state level, and it takes 50 people on a federal level, just so they can employ people. Just like we have deans of students now in the school department in middle school, which nobody ever saw till they get to college. They're great, but you know what they're even better at? Giving the people amnesia. This city's been around for hundreds of years. We never had a CFO. We had more people, larger departments, and we had no CFO. We had a treasurer, an auditor. Then they created the city administrator. Oh, we need a city administrator. We had a mayor with a GED that had no city administrator, no CFO. We had 100,000 people in this city. We had a 300-man fire department. We had a 300-man police department. DCM was 5 times bigger than it is now. I'm not saying the cost was the same, but that's all in salaries, fundamentally,
right,
and all these jobs. But you see, they're great at institutionalizing these jobs. Now, all of a sudden, oh my God, we don't have a CFO. The city can't get along without a CFO. We never had a damn CFO.
We didn't have a city administrator.
We didn't have a city administrator before the late 80s, early 90s, and that was
to make a secretary.
No. First city administrator was Alan.
Right.
Was Alan
Sylvia. That's
Alan
right.
Sylvia. The first chief of staff.
Chief of staff was the secretary.
Was the secretary
That's
made
right.
a chief of staff? But see, that's what they're great at. But what they're better at is making everybody forget that we never had these things, and somehow this city managed to move. They ran the city. Now all of a sudden, oh my God, their hair's on fire. They're running around in circles because there's no. Oh, we're going to lose our CFO. Well, we got a treasurer, we got an auditor, and we got department heads. Well, actually, we don't have any department heads now, but we did have department heads, and we will get department heads because he's got people already in line. And whether they're qualified or not is another thing we have to look at ultimately. But the fact is, this city should run itself. Every department head's supposed to put in a budget, and all the budgets are supposed to add up. So why do we need a chief financial officer to run around and play Chinese checkers with money? Listen, Mary Sahadi was the first and only CFO. Let's make that perfectly clear. Mary Sahadi's been working in this city for 40 years. She was involved in auditing in 90, when we filed the suit in 1990. She was working as an auditor.
When they're making reconciliations.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that, listen, there was no CFO before Mary Sahadi. What did they do? They gave Kathy Ann Viveris an assistant. And that assistant now has become indispensable. Your city is going to fall apart. Well, at one time when they created the job of city administrator, Alan Silva was completely capable of handling everything. We didn't need a CFO. He knew numbers like, he could spit them out. He could go in front of the council. I never saw Alan ever get in front of the council and say, I don't have that number. He had the number in his head. He didn't have to look. He could go through a 175-page budget and spit out every number in the budget. He knew where every penny went. And that's the reason they created that position, to run the city, even though we had a mayor. There was controversy about that. Now, city administrator became indispensable. Then they got Kathy Ann, who was a mall manager and unqualified. That's the way government operates. Now you get an unqualified person that needs help. Then you give them a pay raise and an assistant. So the CFO was created to be an assistant to the city administrator. When you're supposed to get a city administrator that can, let me think, what are they supposed to do? Oh, actually administer the city.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And then we look at the water department. We hire a guy, and we give him a $36,000 raise, but they had to hire a consultant to assist him. That's your government at work, people. You wonder why we're in receivership? They never stop putting in. And in government, it works the exact opposite of private industry. Private industry, if you're not qualified, if you're incompetent, you go out of business and you don't have a paycheck, or you don't get hired. In government, if you're unqualified, you got appointed by one of your friends who you campaigned for or gave a contribution to, and you get a job, and you get paid far more than you're worth. Then you get a pay raise, and then when somebody says, hey, the department's falling apart, something's happening, well, give them an assistant. How many assistant superintendents of schools do we have for a superintendent of school who is getting over $200,000 a year? What was 6 assistants?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? So he doesn't get 200,000. He gets 200,000 plus his benefits, plus the 6 assistants. That's how much it costs us to have a superintendent of schools. You think if you're going to pay somebody $250,000 or near $250,000, they should be able to handle the job that they got? But that's your government. So if you're trying to sit there scratching your heads how we got here, I just explained it.
Boy, talk about acting. You got that right out there. Didn't pull any punches. Just slam them. I'll tell you now. Well, you know, it's interesting because we're looking at this administration falling apart. And you brought up the fact about not having qualified candidates for the positions. We went through that under Jazel.
Yep.
We had the Ice House Guard and so on and so forth. Well, this administration has chosen to not release the resumes or the work history of their department heads or anyone applying for a job. They're not releasing that information. So this tells you what the administration's trying to do. They are doing everything under the cloak and dagger. Everything's being done on the quiet, the QT. Nobody can know. Nobody can check me out. Nobody can say I'm doing wrong. Nobody can say I'm doing right because I'm not going to give them anything at all to work on. I mean, we've learned that because he doesn't give us any of his press releases. Yeah, we get them anyways, but...
You're right, but I got to tell you, CJ, I'm going to tell you what the reason is going to be. It's all your fault. Mm-hmm. Because when we get a resume, we look at them and then we talk about them. You're the guy that brought the Ice House Guard in and had his resume, and we picked it apart and we said, look, I don't think Ice House Guard's qualified, and he wasn't. But as you said, what's the response of this administration? Doing what he did before. Give him a chance. Give him another term to be totally not transparent, have no transparency, and now as a lame duck before he's sworn in, he's going to get everybody he knows a job. He's going to make sure all his friends try to weed their way into bidding on contracts. He's going to do everything for his people because guess what? He's got nothing to lose. He's done. 2 years, he's fetched, bye-bye.
Yeah, unless he chooses for a third term, which...
the cabal will not let him
I don't think so either. I think they've already decided who the next mayor is going to be after this guy. Although that may change too, depending on how bad our financial situation is.
Yeah.
And, you know, you talked about the rents going up and whatnot. People need to understand the rents aren't going up because the landlords are trying to gouge you and make a fortune. They got to go up because water, sewer, taxes, and now a debt exclusion that you, the voter, approved. I didn't vote for it, but I got to pay it anyhow because you voted for it and you approved it. So that means that I got to pay for something I wanted nothing to do with, which I don't think is fair, but that's the way it works. That's the rule. And that money has to be recouped. You can't expect the property owner to suck it all up. That's not the way it works. The property owner needs to make a buck, at least something, so that they can make the necessary repairs to the property, so they can make the necessary upkeep to the property. Otherwise, you're going to live in squalor, and you're still going to be paying $800 or $900 for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Although I'm seeing $1,200 and $1,500 now for a 1 and 2 bedroom apartment. And with these new market rate housing, which again never have been a big fan of market rate housing. Market rate housing just does exactly what you don't want it to do. It gouges the tenant for the money. And their excuse is, we bought an old building, we remodeled it, it cost us a lot of money, and now we're going to do it. It costs you a lot of money, my butt, because guess what? You got more tax breaks on that than anything else. TIFs, state tax grants. I mean, I'm not even going to go into it because it just makes me sick. It makes me sick. So remember, we have no administrative department anymore. And we'll have to keep watching what's going to happen. This is getting to be crazy. I mean, we don't write this stuff.
No,
you know,
you can't write it. It'd be in a fiction aisle.
I know, you can't write this stuff at all. So, well, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to tell you, have a great weekend, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching.